Welcome back, Focus Learners. Look, today's explainer is diving into a fascinating corner of the tech world that is, honestly, going to completely upend everything you thought you knew about building a massive business. We're looking at the microcap exchange. We're going to explore how incredibly tiny AI startups, some literally run by just a single person, are out-earning traditional, heavily funded tech giants. Seriously, forget the massive offices, forget the huge payrolls. Today, we're putting real numbers on the board for the leanest, most profitable AI companies out there. Just to grab your attention right out of the gate, consider this number, $10 million. Back in May, a company called Chatbase crossed $10 million a year in revenue. And here is the absolute craziest part. They did it with just 18 people and zero venture capital. The founder literally started building this the very week ChatGPT launched, tweeted a quick demo to his 16 followers, and had a paying customer exactly 30 minutes after putting up a pricing page. 30 minutes. And they aren't alone here. Another company, Aragon, hit that exact same $10 million mark with just 9 people. Okay, let's dive into this. Seeing that kind of mind-boggling scale brings us to the core question of our explainer today. What does it actually take to compete in AI right now? Do you need hundreds of millions in funding, a massive engineering team, or is the leverage finally tilting entirely towards a small, agile builder? Well, to answer that, we're going to look at the exact companies pulling this off. But before we start throwing around massive revenue figures, we need some ground rules, right? We're filtering out the noise today using what the source calls the STAMP system. Basically, this is a really rigorous method used to verify the real, actual revenue numbers of these AI microcap companies. The internet is totally full of founders exaggerating their growth, so we are only looking at data that has been stamped and categorized based on how trustworthy it actually is. Breaking down these tiers of trust, at the very top, we have Stripe Verified. This means a third-party service connects directly through an API and checks the actual payment data. It is absolutely bulletproof. Right below that, we've got self-reported. That means the founder publicly stated the numbers but actually provided the receipts. You know, like a screenshot from their Stripe dashboard to back it up. If a company doesn't have a stamp, like if it's just a rumor or some unverified claim, they are completely excluded from our analysis today. All right, let's move to our first piece of evidence. Section 1, Case Study 1, the Solo Titan. We're looking at a company called Photo AI. It's run entirely by a single individual named Peter Levels. The app basically generates photorealistic pictures of you for dating profiles or professional headshots. But I want you to consider this number, 40,870. Now that is not his revenue. No, that's the number of lines of code in the single PHP file that runs his entire product. One file. No complex frameworks, $0 raised. I mean, this perfectly proves that the barrier to entry isn't about overly complicated, bloated tech stacks anymore. And here are the stamped, self-reported numbers backed by his dashboard receipts. Photo AI is sitting at a $1.8 million a year run rate. That's his projected annual revenue based on what he's making right now. Plus, he is taking home a staggering 76% profit margin. Revenue per employee? Well, it's over $1 million because he has 0 employees. So the absolutely crucial point here is this. What is his actual competitive advantage? I mean, anyone can rent an image model and build a payment page, right? Well, his real moat is that he had 100,000 followers before he even launched. Distribution was his superpower. Now, let's pivot over to a company called TypingMind, built by another solo founder, Tony Din. For the last 3 years or so, the tech internet has kind of laughed at what they call AI wrappers. They dismiss them as, quote, literally a nicer chat interface that just points at ChatGPT or Claude using an API key. People swore these companies couldn't exist, let alone survive. Well, the numbers tell a very, very different story. TypingMind pulls in between $130,000 and $160,000 every single month. To put that into perspective, that's up to $1.9 million a year, run by one guy. And he pays the exact same model bills as everyone else. He didn't build the underlying intelligence, he just built a much better room for you to sit in while you use that intelligence. The lesson here is crystal clear. The AI models are commodities, but the user experience is absolutely not. Hey, if you think you need a decade of engineering experience to pull this off, check out StoryShort. It generates faceless, short-form videos for TikTok and YouTube. Revenue, $22,333 a month. And this is Stripe Verified, the cleanest, most trustworthy stamp we've got. The founder, Samuel Rondo, is solo, he's bootstrapped, and incredibly, he was literally learning to code while building it in 2024 using super basic tech like Node and MongoDB. That's right, a complete beginner out-earning most corporate salaries. Unbelievable. Moving right along. Section 2, the honest reality check. Let's look at the truth. Look, it is not all hockey stick growth, overnight millions, and easy money in the microcap game. There is a really brutal side to this market, and transparency is key to understanding it. Take SiteGPT, for example. It's a chatbot trained on your website's docs. The founder builds in public and is incredibly transparent. At his peak, he was touching $15,000 a month. But currently, he's at $10,183 a month. He publishes his down months, too, because churn is a very real thing. The competition is fierce. He's a one-person company fighting against massive competitors every day. This is the honest shape of most AI microcaps. It's not a rocket ship. It's a daily fight to hold on to those incredible margins. And speaking of honesty, this exact situation perfectly highlights why our stamp system exists in the first place. A tool called Ledmore AI recently claimed they crossed $1 million in annual recurring revenue. Sounds great, right? But when you look at the actual math the founder disclosed, that $1 million was just one exceptionally good day of sales multiplied by 365. Wow, that is definitely not annual recurring revenue. That's just a fake vanity metric. So the takeaway here is absolutely crucial. Always, always read the fine print in a founder's tweet. Next up, let's look at a team of 4 running 2 products, Mentions and Clio. They pull in $82,000 a month. But the secret sauce here isn't just the code. The co-founders brought roughly 480,000 LinkedIn followers to the table from day one. They didn't build a product and then go out begging for customers. They spent years building an audience and then simply aimed that audience at a new product. This proves that industrialized, distribution-first audience building is often the single most valuable asset you can have. All right, let's shift gears. Section 3, bootstrapped versus venture capital giants. Now, let's compare those numbers with the other side of the trading floor. We've seen what the solo, bootstrapped founders are doing. Now let's examine the venture-backed side of the AI industry for a comparison that is, frankly, a little jarring. First, Exa. They build AI-native search infrastructure. They raised $361 million. They are valued at $2.2 billion. They have 82 employees, and their estimated revenue is around $10 million. Then you have Eru, simulating survey respondents. Over $50 million raised, a $1 billion valuation, and revenue is reported to be below $10 million. You have to read that again. These companies have billion-dollar valuations on less revenue than some of the solo founders we just studied have actual receipts for. It's wild. This brings us to our absolute most important metric today, revenue per employee. At the bottom, the $2.2 billion VC giant Exa is making about $120,000 per employee. Chatbase, the bootstrapped graduate we talked about earlier, is sitting at $550,000. And at the very top, solo founders like Peter and Tony are generating $1.6 to $1.8 million per human. The leverage has literally never been this tilted toward the small player, and this brilliantly illustrates our main point. The smallest companies have the highest revenue per human in the entire industry, and frankly, it is not even close. This leads us to Section 4, the microcap playbook. Let's look at the repeatable patterns. So, what do we actually do with all this information? Let's extract the repeatable pattern from all the evidence we've just reviewed. Every single successful solo titan on our board shares 3 distinct patterns. Number 1. Wrappers, niche tools, and services built on top of rented models absolutely win. No one in this group trained a frontier model. Number 2. Ship embarrassingly fast. Remember the beginner learning to code, or that single PHP file? Speed beats perfection every time. And number 3, which is perhaps the most important, build distribution before the product. The winners had an audience ready to buy on day 1. I want to leave you with one final, incredibly provocative thought to tie this whole shebang together. ZickPoll, which is a bootstrapped survey company, recently disclosed that 14% of its new signups arrive simply because ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini directly recommended them to a user. Think about that. The AI models aren't just the product anymore. They are actively becoming the sales channel. If you are building today, you have to rethink not just how you build, but how you sell in a world where AI is doing the recommending. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Focus learners, keep studying, keep building, and I'll see you in the next one.